So thank you so much, everyone, for staying after watching this thought-provoking film. And thank you so much, Dung-Vi, for this film. I really like the ethnographic feel, the pacing, the use of image and sound. All visual and oral elements come together to make this film so evocative. I'm also intrigued by the film's premise of how an innovative model of work plays out among the employees in Vietnam. Your film piqued my curiosity, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to ask you some questions. So let me go into the first question. We'll go into more details about the film's subject matter of this model of work and its, if I may say so, neoliberal globalization context. But first, I'm curious about your initial motivation to make this film. Is there like an origin story, so to speak?
Okay. So what could I say? When I was child, my father was a computer scientist, and he worked in a company. And when he came home each evening, I saw him very sad. So after I decided not to work in a company and to become an editor and a director, uh, in in order to be free at work, to choose my activities and the people I would work with. And I had a very bad impression on companies, working in companies. And one day, maybe 8 years later, I went to a party organized by Officiants, the company I filmed my feature film, and I listened to the person who created the company, and he told us that this year Officiants wanted to change their model of organizations. And when I listened to him, I couldn't believe it was possible to mix work, personal fulfillment, and team spirit. So I decided to go to Vietnam to see if it was possible that work, personal fulfillment, and team spirit could be interlinked. Because I wanted to believe that it would be possible, but I wasn't sure. It was clear, yes?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for that, very honest response. So question number 2 then, what comes across in your film is this like almost utopic vision of work within capitalist neoliberal globalization and how it works out in the workaday life of workers in Vietnam, a country that has gone from this socialist command economy to integration in the global capitalist economy. So as you already started to answer this question, I thought maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on it. Watching the film, I kind of came away with this like discrepancy between the utopic vision and the working lives of the employees that you film in Vietnam. So this model of work seems to like combine the sort of like this gig economy with its flexible extraction of value from workers through low pay, while hothousing their creativity in the high-tech models appeal to idealism, to perks and work flexibility. So this restless search for new talent takes us in your film to very young students and the emotional toll on past employees. Did you mean for your film to be a critique of this model of work from the beginning, or did it become more so as we went along? Or if it was like, part of like the filming, and the story sort of revealed itself more as you continue filming the film.
Okay. I wouldn't say it's a critique of officiants, but I remember that officiants, when the company explained its model and organizations, uh, explain it through an utopic visions. Officiants say that they focus first on personal fulfillment, equality, solidarity, and not only profits. And I was wondering if it was genuine or fake, only to attract clients. And so that's why I came to Vietnam to check if what they say was genuine. And what I discovered is that they had to find compromise. For example, between fair salary and being competitive. And it's a tall order, I think. And but to find compromise, it's not retaining their integrity, I think. And my film, it's not a critic, it's more what I said before. I hope them to success in their utopic vision, but I know what the world is, and I think my film is more a balance between utopic vision and reality.
Mhm. Yes. Well, thank you so much for that response. So you've created a film that delves into the texture of this employee-centered work model down to the details that evoke the feel of their workday and the enthusiasm and frustration of workers. You capture the emotional toll in affecting details. The pacing feels fittingly slow, putting viewers in the time and place of the people that you follow. The film, to me, feels ethnographic without commentary or identification of locales or speakers who appear on screen. Could you comment on your choice to forego the narration and other types of on-screen identifying information used in most documentaries?
I think when I make the documentary, I wanted that the viewers make their own opinions and have enough space to think by themselves. That's why I didn't use interviews or voiceover, because me, when I go to the cinema, I like to discover by myself what I have to think about the characters, the actions I see on the screen. And besides, I wanted the viewers to feel what is like to be an employee in officials, to focus on the experience instead of the explanations, and in order to have empathy and to understand more what it could be to be an employee, and to ask to themselves, oh, what happened if I was an employee? What? How could I decide? And what can I say? Uh, when I wanted to come and film officiants, the employees told me that I could go everywhere, every time, and shoot everything, but they will not explain me how to where to go and who to meet. So maybe I was like an employee, a new employee or an intern, and it was very interesting because I can very sense what it is to work in this kind of model of organizations.
Well, first of all, you succeeded in terms of like putting the audience, in that immediate sort of atmosphere and having the feel for how people interacted. And it sounds to me like you had a really interesting filming experience, being sort of like embedded as an intern in the company. Thank you so much for that, sort of like behind the scene look. Um, to move the conversation forward, maybe you could comment on the editing of the film. I noticed that there were like intercutting of long indoor takes with like street movement in cities that, sometimes are like fast and sometimes slow. And so you do all of that intercutting while retaining the pacing of the film, which I found, to be so evocative. Could you comment on the editing a little bit?
Yes. Um, I decided to film inside the company, but I wanted the viewers to understand all the parameters and the difficulties that officiants has to overcome to exist in this kind of organizations. So I think it would be important to show the locations of officiants, to show that officiant is in a poor country with fast development that relies on trade from Western countries. And I wanted to show and to the viewers the globalizations, the skyscrapers leaning against the poor buildings, the street vendors, because I was not sure that all the viewers would know how Vietnam is in reality. Maybe if they only see inside the company, they could believe that Vietnam is like Japan. So it was very important for me to show the reality of Vietnam.
Yeah,
That's why I did to show inside and outside the company. It was very important.
yeah, those were really, really interesting shots that were interlaced or intercut into the film. And so, relatedly, could you comment further on the use of image in the film? For example, I noticed like between the 45:24 and 44:52 time marks, there's this digitally distorted visual on the screen. What are some of the decisions around the visual style that includes limited use of visual disruption, or just your decisions around creating the effect that you wanted for the film through the kind of visual style that we see in the film?
Okay. The scene that you talking about happened after a meeting with two men from Europe, and they are talking about Microsoft, who who ask no who have the right to check the activity of their employee online, to check their work effectively. And I was very shocked by that. And what I was wondering if it would be interesting, instead of filming through my camera, to film through the computer like Microsoft.
Mhm.
And because when I go and shoot inside the company, we were three: me, the cameraman, and the sound engineer. So the employees know that we are here and film them, and they can say to us, "No, you can't film now." And but if you are filmed through the camera of the computer,
Mhm.
maybe you can forget that you are filming, and I think it's intrusion into your privacy. So I wanted the viewers to feel that
Mhm.
and to feel the difference between my documentary and Microsoft. And this scene was also a way to talk about the COVID-19
Mhm.
and introduce the second part of the documentary.
Mhm.
And because COVID-19 changed our way to work, especially working at home remotely.
Mhm. Mhm. So, how does that figure into the overall visual style that you chose for the film? You know, to have all of these different camera angles and to place the viewer not just in the position of the worker, but also in the position of the employer, should the employer choose to spy on the worker. So,
Oh,
like the overall sort of visual style that.
no, you know, all the employees know that they were filming through the camera. As I asked them to film themselves through
Mhm.
the camera of their computer.
Mhm. Yeah. So then, you know, these elements sort of work together to give a kind of overall visual feel for your film, and I thought it was like really effective. And so all of these like choices that you have made, like very consciously, to have all of these different camera angles, for me, added together into this very remarkable visual style of your film, and I really, really appreciate that. And I also really appreciate the story that you told in terms, like, we would not have known that watching the film, like where the camera was placed and, you know, sort of like the reason behind it. It just sort of like puts us in all of these sort of like different positions vis-a-vis the worker. So I really appreciated that. And thank you so much for that. Um, so I was also intrigued about the use of sound in your film. In some parts, you use these really jarring, broken mechanical or electronic sounds. And then the sound would sort of like seamlessly move to the mechanical roar of traffic, you know, the engines on the motorcycles that people ride on the street. And then from there to like flowy sounds of the zither in some sort of you know, composition of music that sounds like, you know, traditional Vietnamese music. So maybe you could comment a little bit on this really interesting use of sound in your film.
Mm. Um, so the documentary
Mhm.
takes place in an ecosystem which is the digital revolutions. And today, most of us are spend our time online, right?
Mhm.
So I thought it would be interesting to capture sound of Vietnam from the reality and to transform it in an electronic music to just to talk about our daily life
Mhm.
today. And so we work with I work with Juan, a music composer, and when we talk together we thought it would be interesting to go to the Museum of Vietnamese Traditional Instruments in Saigon during our artistic residency. And so we could mix the modernity of Vietnam and the traditional society in Vietnam, and to find a balance between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And so we saw a lot of instruments in that museum. And the one who moved me the most was the Deezer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go to the web and watch and listen a lot of music played the Deezer. And I choose the way you, how do you call that? The flowing.
Flowing water. It's called lu thủy in Vietnamese, and it's a mode of composition. Chinese musical tradition also has like this lu thủy mode of composition as well. Composition / improvisation, because I guess traditional Vietnamese music is very improvisational.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it just sounded so lovely in the way that your composer Juan had written it, and then the way that it's performed, and then the way that you use it in the film. So I was pretty blown away with this sort of like not a mixture, because some people would like mix the modern with the traditional in order to come up with some sort of more I guess a piece of music that would be more a fusion, but in
Yes.
case you move like some really jarring sounds to like the roar of traffic to like the flowy feel of that piece of of music that is written in the mode of a traditional Vietnamese music. And so I really like that. And it creates this feel for the film, in terms of the use of sound. And then in addition to that, you use like so many other kinds of sound that together, it really creates a kind of an emotional kind of atmosphere for the film when the subject matter that we're covering is like work. And work is supposed to be devoid of emotion. So the use of sound for me was so terrific, and I really appreciate that. I know that our conversation is getting long, so I'm hoping that you can maybe comment a little bit on the collaboration or the synergy among the creative principles that brought us this fascinating film.
Yes. Maybe we can keep on with the music, because as you said that we work on the music with Ran, and when we work with Juan helped me to develop what I wanted to say through the music, for example. And when we went to the Villa Saigon, the artistic residency, I asked him to work on the original soundtrack, but I haven't shoot yet. And he said me that it was not possible to compose music without having some image to have inspirations. So I had to go outside and film the streets of Vietnam, and that's why I decided to feel the streets and the ambience of Vietnam. And I decided that the music for the streets will reflect the utopic visions and the dreams of the employees for their company. So that's why it's a dreamy music, maybe, or
Mhm.
hypnotic music, maybe. And that is thanks to Juan.
That is fascinating. And your work with the other creative principles of your film also sort of like reflects this same spirit of like collaboration. And how did like that go in terms of like, did you just take like a small teaming, a small filming team to Vietnam, and then work in the post-production with these other creative principles, or how did that play out?
Uh, yes, so as I said, for the shooting we were three. So me, the cameraman, and the sound engineer, and we talked a lot before the shooting. But during the shooting, we didn't speak together, so we just communicate by gesture. And the sound engineer and the cameraman take care to not disturb each other. So we were very concentrated during the meeting, me listening to what happened and them trying to capture image and sound.
Mm,
But it was a lot of preparations.
mm.
And after I work with the editor during maybe 12 or 15 weeks.
Wow.
Mm.
Mm,
Because, the scene of the meeting,
mhm.
when takes 3 hours
Wow.
in real life.
Uh-huh.
It takes 3 hours, and we have to cut in order to have maybe 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Yes.
Wow, that was
So
an insane
in total,
amount
yes.
of, yeah, insane amount of footages. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you still retain the ethnographic feel of the film and the sort of like slow pacing and the sort of like um, placing, us as the viewers in this sort of like texture of the way that time flowed. So all of that was just so amazing. And now I have a better idea of how difficult that process was. So thank you so much, for this conversation. And also thank you so much for bringing us this really evocative film. And thank you for being here for this conversation across the time difference between the two continents. So we really appreciate that. And that is all the time that we have for this Q&A. I really want to thank you again, Dung-Vi, for joining me today. Bruce Lee was our technical support. Please remember that Viet Film Fest at home continues through Sunday, October 19th. So please take a look at all of the other films that we have in this year's catalog. Thank you so much for watching today.
Yeah, thank you.